The new Stranger Things trailer has everyone panicking over which characters will die. You're probably worried they'll kill off fan favorites like Steve. You're probably wondering just how many of the main cast will actually make it to the end. But what if I told you we can already predict who lives and who dies? By analyzing every season so far and the way Stranger Things has handled character arcs, deaths, foreshadowing, we can make some pretty accurate predictions. So, assuming the Duffer Brothers don't throw logic out the window, here are my educated guesses on the fate of your favorite characters in Stranger Things Season 5. Starting with the characters who are almost guaranteed to live, Erica Sinclair. She's still a child, she doesn't have any strong connections to the central characters like Mike, Will, or Eleven, and serves as comic relief most of the time, so it just wouldn't make any sense. Holly Wheeler, similar to Erica, is just way too young, and Stranger Things just isn't that kind of show. We're also 99% sure she's going to go missing in episode 2, but it's very unlikely she dies since it wouldn't accomplish much, so she most likely gets rescued. Dustin Henderson is also unlikely to die because Stranger Things has always been a coming-of-age story at its root, and it's highly unlikely a character like Dustin would die. Yes, he's been there since the very beginning and so far has had zero foreshadowing of any kind of self-sacrifice or death in all 4 seasons so far. Lucas Sinclair is in a similar situation to Dustin. As part of Mike's OG friend group, Dustin and Lucas are main characters, but usually play a supporting role to the groups they're part of. So having either of these two die just would be very strange since they've had no foreshadowing since season 1. Hopper is an interesting one, because Hopper would have seemed like a character who would die, but after his fake-out death in season 3, it would feel a little cheap and ruined if he dies now, so I just really don't see them killing him off now. Max, since she's bedridden, she will probably play a smaller role overall, and her mind may be trapped in Vecna's consciousness, which will probably be what her role is in the final season, but for her to die after she was given a chance to be saved would feel pretty pointless. She might not heal fully by the end of the show, but she's probably not gonna die. The next are shock factor deaths. These are quite unlikely, but are definitely on the table if they really want to hit us where it hurts. Like Robin Buckley. Maya Hawke already said she was open to it if Robin's death would add major emotional impact. Now, I don't think it makes the most sense considering her relevance to the core characters, but since she is such a fan favorite character, it would definitely leave impact. Nancy Wheeler is a character who's constantly involved in danger, and being related to Mike makes her more likely to die to leave a huge emotional impact, but again, nothing has pointed to her death so far, but for shock factor, yes, they could find a way to write this one in. Steve Harrington is somebody that everybody wants to live, especially after he continues more and more wholesome each season. If one of these 3 characters were to die, it would most likely be a very heroic death of their own volition. I personally would not like to see any of these 3 go, but for shock factor, it could be done. These next 2 I think are more likely than the previous 3. I believe either Joyce or Jonathan would sacrifice themselves for either Will or Eleven. Jonathan and Joyce are very connected with many important characters like Mike, Will, Eleven, Nancy, Steve, and Hopper, so either of their deaths would definitely be a huge plot point. Jonathan's arc started to stall around season 3, so it might make sense for him to sacrifice himself to add to his character and finish a character arc. It's also very clear Joyce would do anything to protect her family, and since she adopted Eleven after season 3, it would be a beautiful act of self-sacrifice. After everything she did to save Will, to also give her life for Eleven, even though they aren't blood related, would be really beautiful to see. They definitely are not both dying, but I think one or the other could make sense depending on which characters they want to affect with the death. The next 3 are the 3 most important characters, and I'm almost certain one of them dies, but not permanently. Eleven, Mike, and Will. It doesn't make a lot of sense for any of the kid main characters to actually die in a coming-of-age story like Stranger Things, but we've already seen Max almost die and then get revived. So Stranger Things is no stranger to fake-out deaths, and I'm pretty sure they'll pull it off with one of these 3 since they are the main characters, and it would feel like a huge plot twist if we were to think that one of these 3 were dead. Eleven has already had a lot of foreshadowing to being akin to Jean Grey, the X-Men mutant, a powerful telepath who revives due to her connection to the Phoenix Force. I wouldn't be surprised if Eleven dies somehow but is revived due to her connection with the Upside Down or something like that. The same applies to Will and Mike, except with Eleven reviving them. The last characters are characters who have the highest chance of dying. Ted and Karen Wheeler. The Wheeler father obviously has characters and is definitely expendable. Nancy is showing wiping blood off in the trailer video with a look of guilt. Now, there are a lot of different theories about whose blood it is, but many guess it could be Ted or Karen. Karen got her own poster last season, which was weird considering how little she did. So that could be set up for something bigger like a surprise death or backstory reveal. The theory that Karen, it was actually Alice Creel and survived is still technically on the table, so it would make sense for Vecna to go finish what he started. These two are in the right position for a character to die. They're related to the main characters, you know, Nancy and Mike Wheeler, old enough for it to be appropriate for them to die, and also are expendable for the plot. Murray is kind of a wild card. He survived way longer than most of us expected, you know, hacking into government networks, surviving Russian prisons. Let's be honest, none of us expected him to live for that long, especially since he's been there from the very beginning. He's close to Joyce, he's close to Hopper, and has been pretty important to the plot for a side character. So I feel like his death would be similar to Alexei's. It wouldn't be a self-sacrifice, but something unexpected, and he might, you know, even crack a joke before dying. Dr. Owens is one of the few government characters who actually cared about the kids. He knows a lot about Eleven, Vecna, and the Upside Down, so it's almost certain someone like him will have to take that information to the grave. He was also involved with Brenner's cruel experiments, despite being a pretty good person at heart. So it would make a lot of sense for a character like this to die, you know, helping the main cast escape to redeem himself. And lastly, Vecna / Henry / One, whatever you want to call him. The final boss obviously has to go. Stranger Things themes of light defeating dark and love overcoming all are generic, but they do work well for this show. Vecna just has no chance of being redeemed at this point, and is very certain that if any character dies, it's gotta be him. So who do you think is gonna die in Stranger Things Season 5? Let me know down in the comments below.